Adding and subtracting decimal numbers is relatively straightforward because basically we're just doing a minor extension of what we've already seen in the past as far as adding and subtracting with whole numbers and integers. If we do in fact have integers, we go ahead and use the idea of thinking of a money problem to help us put things together the right way. But as far as actually making sure our numbers are calculated the way that we need to, we're going to have things lined up in columns the same as we've done with our regular whole number stuff. It's now that we can phrase things a little bit more cleanly by referring to the decimal point. Line up all your decimal points, add down the columns starting in the right and working your way forward. So if they've already given us things lined up based on the decimal point, then we start in the right side. Empty spaces are considered zeros, and you're welcome to put them in or leave them off. So if, for instance, you wanted to put in an extra 0 in the number 10.07 so that you had something in that empty spot, that previously empty spot, you go right ahead. If you wanted to leave that off, you are welcome to do so as well. 7 plus empty spot. 4 plus 7. Carry a 1. If we need to carry, we carry. If we need to borrow, we borrow. 1 plus 8 plus 0. In front of that is our column with the decimal points. In front of that, 0 plus 0. And in front of that, empty spot plus 1. If things aren't already lined up for us, we would do so for ourselves. 0.4591. 0.237, 8.70894. And again, if you would like to put in extra zeros, well, then we would put in an extra 0 in the following locations to help us keep things lined up. Again, if you like it, fine. If you don't like it, fine. We'll go ahead and leave them in this time. Start on the right column and work our way forward. Carry where we need to carry. In order to get our final answer. Likewise for subtraction, if things are already lined up, great. If things are not lined up, then we do it for ourselves. And with subtraction problems, if we need to borrow, we borrow. So in our first example here, 8 minus 4, 2 minus 7, well, that means that we would need to borrow from the 4 so that we would have 12 minus 7. 3 minus 6, we need to borrow again so that we would borrow from the 7 in order to get a 13 minus 6. In front of that, decimal point column. In front of that, 6 minus 6 and 3 minus 2. If things are not already set up for us, we go ahead and do so for ourselves. 1.2345. minus 0.7. If you would like to put in extra zeros, you may. If you would like to leave them off, you may. 5 minus empty, 4 minus empty, 3 minus empty, 2 minus 7. Well, we would need to borrow there. And 12 minus 7. Decimal point in front of that, and again, I like to have the decimal points preceded by the 0. I like to have that in there so I don't accidentally overlook a decimal point while I'm doing my work. If things are not already lined up for us, we line them up for ourselves. So 7.37 minus 0.00008. Empty spot, minus 8. Remember that those empty spots are officially zeros. 0 minus 8. Well, we actually need the 0 in there, and we're apparently going to have to do some borrowing. So, whereas before we had been mentioning optional zeros, we need zeros in here and they are required. In subtraction problems only, empty spots in our top number do need to be filled in with zeros so that we can correctly work through our subtraction steps and get the proper answer. So, 0 minus 8, we need to borrow. Well, we don't have anything to borrow from until we get all the way up to the 7. We borrow from that. And this gives us that chain reaction of borrowing where the first pink 0 becomes a 10 and I immediately borrow from that to turn it into a 9. That means the second pink 0 turns into a 10 and I immediately borrow from that and turn it into a 9. So that that last pink 0 can be turned into a 10, and I can do 10 minus 8. 9 minus 0, 9 minus 0, 6 minus 0, 3 minus 0, decimal point, 7 minus 0. Again, if you have positive and negative numbers showing up in your adding or subtracting problems, think of money so that you can decide whether you have money or owe money so that you can figure out whether you need to work an adding problem or a subtracting problem, work said problem correctly, get your correct answer.